Hi, everybody. Welcome to Coach Menachem Bernfeld tonight. Let's get real. Tonight is Shir 105, Rabbi Schonfeld. You're number 105. You made it. I always start off every week thanking our people for coming every week and for joining. Again, this Shir is all based on the people that come here every week and tell people about it and put on the WhatsApp statuses and email, and they let people know about it. And it's Sichas Chaverim, as we say. So thank you all for coming. Tonight is a busy night. There's a lot of events happening tonight. So this is so happy to have everybody here. Thank you. Again, if anyone wants to join the WhatsApp chat, every Sunday I can send you the flyer. The number is 848-525-0066, 848-525-0066. Save my number, and I will send you the flyer every Sunday. If you want to sign up for the emails, you go to menachembernfeld.com. You could sign up, and you get the weekly email, plus you get the recap we'll send to you and everything else that's happening in the Let's Get Real world. Everybody who's watching this video later on YouTube, you can click on the like button for Coach Menachem and subscribe. Menachem, when the videos come out every Monday, 3 a.m. sharp, you get the click, the thing, and you get to watch all the videos. A lot of people watch it later, as you know, and it's the people that are zeichet to be here live. They're the ones that get the Geshmack. I'm sorry for all the people watching it later, but you got to try to make your Sunday nights available. Again, let's start off first with thanking all of our advertising sponsors for promoting us on all the digital platforms. The first, the Lakewood Scoop over here in Lakewood for voting us here in Lakewood every week. Thank you for Rabbi and Niv Chazak, Eli and Ariel from 5 Town Central. A special thank you to Chayla Kaufman and Shmuel Summer from JCN to Jewish Content Network for always promoting us on all the digital platforms. The Coach Menachem Show is collaborating with OK Clarity to bring greater health and wellness to the Jewish community around the globe. OK Clarity is the online platform for mental health support in the Jewish community. You can find the best therapists, coaches, nutritionists, engagement forums, and stay inspired. When Menachem sends out the emails, the links will be found in those emails. Before we get into it, let's just say over here again, if anybody's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9:30, we bring on the most dynamic, amazing people. Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, so I guess there must be an amazing, dynamic person. I happen to know he's amazing and dynamic, so he definitely fits the criteria. And we have different therapists, different rabbanim, and Rabbi Schonfeld is a little bit of everything. So we're going to have a Geshmack night tonight, because he's a Geshmack guy. It's going to be a Geshmack topic, and we're going to have a great time.
A lot of pressure. That's a lot of Geshmack.
Well, that's the topic, right? It says Geshmack. Okay. Everything's Geshmack. We got to make it all Geshmack. Again, for anybody who's here this week, next Sunday, June 19th, we're going to have an amazing event with Rabbi Reuven Epstein. He's known as the dating and the marriage pro. So let's see if he really is. We'll find out next week. The topic is an open discussion about dating and marriage. I know he gives a lot of classes, courses. He's a dating coach. So we'll find out next week what he has up his sleeve. And please join us. It should be an amazing event, especially if anybody's in the dating portion, even people that are married. He is very big on that topic. And tonight, there's the schus and the honor of Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, the world famous Night Seder in America. During the pandemic, with thousands of yeshivas were closed, no learning. And he held up the world to Chinuch Shalbeis Rabim, right? And Mechazik. And hopefully we'll be able to take some of his koyachas that we saw and be able to utilize in our own kids, for our own chinuch. Tonight's shir 105, we tried doing gematrias. We came out with a gematria of 105. And like Kim Echad equals 105. God is one. So we're putting it all together. The Kim Echad for 105. And Menachem, I know tonight's Geshmack. I don't know what Geshmack means. So maybe tell everybody what we're talking about here tonight and why is everybody here tonight? What's going on?
For sure. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Baruch Hashem, we're up to 105, and I want to thank you, Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, for being with us tonight, Mitzvah Hashem. So, really, the topic tonight is, yes, we need, if you want people to do what you sell, it has to be Geshmack. So here we are, talking about Chinuch. Peter Levine is someone who deals a lot with trauma, and he discusses that trauma is not really what happened to a person, it's really what you do with it. If you have someone to talk to and to discuss it, to bring it out, instead of trying to talk to somebody and not really getting through, so the child or anybody has to suppress and put it away, hidden very, very, very far down, and you can't talk to anybody about it, and then you go on with life hoping that everything's fine, but really deep down something is going on. So talking about any relationship, not only your kids, but especially for your kids, they're just starting their journey. and they need you as the adult, whether it's the Rebbe, the parent, to be there for them. And that means to create a safe place. So if the child has something on their mind, they should be able to tell it to you. Now, it's not easy, and a lot of adults still have a hard time. We're learning about it, slowly. But, let's say a child says, I'm not in the mood of going to school today. What triggers into the adult? They have to go to work. They don't have time for this. We'll talk about it later. Go catch the bus. There's no time now, and there's no later. Or anything that bothers a child, they want to talk. They need to hear it out, understand. They need an adult for that. So here we are as the adults, whoever it is, to be able to learn how to create that space, to listen, to spend some time without judgment, no matter what they say. And it's hard for the adults, especially because we're already in the middle of our journey. So we're very smart. We have all the solutions, maybe. But when the child has a problem, we right away say, don't worry, it's going to be good. And we basically shove it under the rug and hope for the best. But what does the child tell itself? My concerns are not really something that we should talk about. My father's not interested, my mother's not interested. So basically, for those that do well, it looks like they're doing well in school, but really they're really shut down. And the men would say, I'm just a man. But if you didn't have a place where you can just be and be okay with what comes up, with your thoughts, with fears, and have a place where to discuss it, that is very important. And tonight in Menachem, we'll hear more about it. Before we start, I speak a lot of times to Menachem, to Rabbeim, and there are many that say after 2-3 days, I understand I could get all the boys in my class. I could see already. I get them. I know what they need. I understand them. So what I tell them is it's beautiful and it's amazing, but you have to take it to the next level. It's not enough that you understand the child. The child has to feel understood from the adult. And that can be much harder. You can be very smart and you see what the kid needs and how the kid works, but you want that kid should feel this person understands me. And many people, you talk to adults, they have like one teacher, one Rebbe that they were able to connect to. Is that's where they felt understood. So what we really need to do is help the child should understand themselves. They should feel understood from us, feel okay, no matter what comes up, no matter what problems they have, and then help them figure it out. So sit there and create that space, which can be hard. So, Baruch Hashem, we have this chus tonight to speak with Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, which has a lot of experience, different platforms, different places. I sat with him for a few minutes. The stories that he has is really amazing. So I hope tonight we'll hear a little bit about it. And with that, we should take some tips that could help us and the kids around us and help us in any relationship with a lot of siyata d'shmaya mitzvah.
Amen. Thank you, Coach Menachem. Beautiful opening. Before we get into it again, tonight's shir is called "It's Geshmack to be a Kid," creating a chinuch environment that brings out the best in our children. Tonight's shir, I'm saying it's a close neighbor of mine who every night, never miss night, saved America. So it's in the chus of Tzvi Kasira. So he was a real Talmud Muvik, and he really loved coming every night. And actually, one of my neighbors won, I think, electric scooter, Perth over here. So he had a lot of Talmidim in my neighborhood. And I'm going to read Rabbi Ari Schonfeld's bio, and then we're going to watch a song for a few minutes because we have time. We have so much time tonight, and we'll see a little bit what he did. But just again to recap, anybody who doesn't know him does know. During the time of COVID, there was literally, this Zoom program is very small for Ari. Ari had close to 2 full Zoom accounts every night of thousands of boys learning, which was amazing. And it was a very difficult time for everybody, but he stood strong, and he really, as he said, he learned Zoom the day of the shir, the day before. So he really wasn't a Zoom pro, but today it's like, I feel like, most people say, oh, Ushi, Zoom so well. I said, yeah, besides one guy who probably knows a little bit better than me. So that's Ari. So I'm going to read his bio, and then we're going to play the video, and everybody could see the video they made out of Nightside America, which I think was, in Shemayim, probably an amazing, amazing thing. And Rabbi Ari, when you go up there, you'll hook me up, right? Bottom line. Rabbi Ari Schonfeld is Manal Yeshiva Katana Manhattan and director of Camp Aish, a sleepaway camp in Woodburn, New York. He's also created Nightside America, an interactive Zoom that reached thousands of yeshiva boys during the COVID pandemic. And now, without further ado, we're going to put it on. Share the sound. Optimize video clip. Here we go. Ari, relax. I'll show you how it goes.
As a silence fell upon the world, and a thunderous voice was heard, every Jew alive made a vow that never dies, to heed and hear his word.
Through the darkest times and all the pain, our deepest bond remains. With a love so great that it cannot be betrayed, we will never turn away.
Through centuries of exile, we have kept alive that ancient flame. We sit and learn together, forgetting our pain, while Hashem looks down from heaven to the Malachim. He proclaims aloud, just look at how my children make me proud.
Through centuries of exile, we have kept alive that ancient flame. We sit and learn together, forgetting our pain, while Hashem looks down from heaven to the Malachim. He proclaims aloud, just look at how my children make me proud.
Rabbi, take it away. Here we go.
Sounds better when a computer helps your voice.
Though the world outside has closed its doors, Limud Torah still endures. Our yeshivas closed, locked down in our homes, yet connecting to our source.
As we're reaching out from countless homes,
our chabura swelled and grown, till the surging voice of thousands of our boys
will rise up to the throne.
Through centuries of exile, we have kept alive that ancient flame.
we sit and learn together, forgetting our pain,
While Hashem looks down from heaven to the Malachim, he proclaims aloud,
Chazu, chazu, b'nai chavivai.
We say, Karyasvin Yisrael ba'askin b'simchas ha'Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells to the Malachim, he tells to the Famalia Delay, he says, Chazu, chazu, b'nai chavivai. Look at my children. Look at how they make me proud. Sitting and learning, coming together to learn at night voluntarily. And we have, for the last over a year, lived through a very, very hard time in our history. And throughout it all, we came together.
children, make me proud.
Rabbi Ari, supposed to have you here tonight with us. Give me 1 sec. Make sure that we yeah, I don't watch the next video. Rabbi Ari, floor is yours. Beautiful.
That is not an easy. That's an emotional video for at least me. So
Let's do the high part again.
it worked. It's a lot better when Donnie Gross is working on the computer to make your voice sound better. So first of all, I wanted to thank Coach Menachem and Rabashi for inviting me here tonight. It's a tremendous chus to be part of such a chush of a platform. I want to thank my friend Tzvi Rubenfeld, who I think is the Shadchan of help making this happen. And obviously, for me to be quote unquote back on Zoom it's nostalgic, it's deja vu. We'll talk about it a little bit maybe for those that aren't familiar with Night Seder America, but it's watching the numbers grow and watching Yoel Bergman join from Chicago, who's on tonight. This is the first time he's allowed to text me, so he keeps texting me, hi, because I would close the chat for an essay. To see some of the regulars, there was a Henry Gross that was on a lot during COVID, who's on tonight. I see Rabbi Bernfeld was one of our guest speakers. Nights America. It's an overwhelming schus to be part of such a chashuv platform, and as this platform has been used in the past to really try to improve ourselves as mechanchim, as parents, as avdei Hashem. So just to try to share, nara yisi v'gam loy zakanti, but just to try to share my limited experience. Baruch Hashem, now I have the schus of being the manal at a very, very chashuv yeshiva katan of Manhattan. I see some of the parents are on tonight, so I have to be very, very careful in in how I speak. But it's I have the schus of being part of a wonderful yeshiva. I have a camp in the summer, but just really to share my experiences and no chidushim, but hopefully we can grow from that. I want to share what the moment, and I remember it well. I remember who it was with. I remember where I was. I remember everything about it. The moment that I decided I want to be a Rebbe. It was Camp Kaita, and we were learning Masechta Sanhedrin, and I was giving shir. I had the schus. Macharusa was a Meir Shimon Birnbaum, very chashuv, Shalom Eshev, Maggid Shir today, son of Shmuel Birnbaum, and I was giving shir in the sugya of Baba Machteres, and there was a 12th grader who was struggling tremendously to understand the concept of Shinui Kaina. Again, I'm not going to go through the Shikol Torah of Lachanan, but it was the Shikol Torah from Lachanan Wasserman on the Pshat and Shinui Kaina. And I remember walking with him around the camp during First Seder. I would tell him the kasha, the teretz, and he just didn't get it. Again, kasha teretz didn't get it. And I would try maybe this mushroom, maybe this. It was like a half hour, and I thought it was pretty simple. It was a pretty simple kasha teretz from Lachanan Wasserman. And after a half hour, like the light bulb went on. And this boy, he turns to me and he says, I got it. And he said back to me, the Vart, well, you nailed it. You got it. And I ran into Rabbi Gershon Kramer, the head counselor of the camp, one of my chashuv rebbeim, and I said, Rabbi Kramer, I think I want to be a Rebbe. And he's like, oh, no. And he said, why? I said, because I never got such sipuk hanefesh from seeing the joy on his face of chapping the vart. It was a vart that I thought we should have gotten. And it was again and again and again. And when the light bulb went on, I loved it. And I think that what makes a competent Rebbe, a successful Rebbe, and really, we're all Rebbeim, whether we're parents, whether we're, aunts, uncles, anyone that's, anyone that's in a position to be mative and to have an impact on others, we all have that achrayus. And what makes a Rebbe connectable is the ability to enjoy and get a Geshmack, as that word was used many, many times already tonight, is to get a Geshmack out of what that child feels and experiences. It's that ability to connect on a real, visceral, real, deep level to his experience. And that he sees that, he or she sees that in a real way. And there's a very chashuv of art from Rav Yitzchak Kutner, the Pachid Yitzchak, that in Parshas Beshalach, you have the Mulchama for Deiros between Klal Yisrael and Amalek. And Moshe Rabbeinu, the pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayem Moshe Yeshua, Bechar Lanu Anashim. Go choose for us men, gather up men to wage war. And it's a Pella, because Moshe Rabbeinu was like Kambi Yisrael K'Moshe Oid. He was the greatest Nevi'im of all time. He didn't need Yoshua. He was quite capable on his own to select, the few and the brave of Klal Yisrael. And Rashi says that the reason why he said the lashon of Bechar Lanu, meaning Bechar Lanu, he said, Yeshua, let's us, Bechar Lanu, we should go ahead and choose. He brought Yehoshua, into the meeting. And Rashi says, Li v'lecha hishvayu loy. Mikan amru chachamim yehi chavay talmidcha chaviv alecha kishalach. He was including Yehoshua in the process. He was making Yehoshua's opinion matter. And Rav Hutner says it was specifically because Amalek is the adversary of Deiros. It's the adversary, it's the ultimate adversary of Klal Yisrael, of our hashkafa and our way of life versus them. So the way in which you give over the Messiah is through Lanu. I was actually thinking as you were showing the video of that song. So that song is, I think, a very special song of Night Seder America. That song was written by Yeshaya 11. Yeshaya 11 is an 8th grader. He's actually in the song singing. He's a very chashuv ben Torah. He's Yeshiva Long Island. He was one of my big Night Seder America boys. And his father called me up. His father was a very chashuv Talmid Chacham living in the 5 towns. And he said, my son wrote a song. I think it's pretty good. He wrote a song for Gary Goldwag. Could I send it to you? And he sent it to me, basically this song. And it was gorgeous. And I said, let's do it. And someone gave the money. And we went to Danny Gross. And it was... a song written by a boy in Night Seder America, sung with some very chashuv singers. Obviously, Baruch Levine and Ribi Shrebel are superstars, but Yeshai Levin's in the song, and that's the secret. If there is such a thing called the secret sauce to Chinuch, I think that's it. I think it's showing, and it's quite simple. It's showing every single boy and girl that they are important. We just finished the Parshas Nasai, and in all the Nesiim, so all them, it's glaring and it's staring you in the face. All the Svarim ask that the Torah, which we learned so many halachas from extra oisiyos in the Torah and from ksarim in the Torah, and all of a sudden the Torah repeats the whole Parsha of Nesiim, right? Again and again and again. So other than a bar mitzvah boy who lanes and he feels very proud that he lay in the 176 psukim, even though it's very easy, but. So the Medrash says already, and all the Bali Sfar, the Bali Musa tell us, the Medrash says is because the point is that each one of the Nesiim was different, and the Torah is trying to show that even though the carbon looks the same, it's very different, and it's the chashivas of the individual, and people ask me, I get asked. Obviously, I think I get known because of Night Seder America. And Night Seder America, there was a tremendous amount of siyata d'shmaya. It was also a confluence of events there was everything going for it. In other words, when Night Seder America, when COVID hit, I never heard of Zoom. As I never heard of it. My yeshiva, YBH, where I was in Passaic, went to Zoom right away. I thought there was a lot of unbelievable free content going around during the beginning of COVID. I said, maybe there's a need for a Torah Dika content for boys. It started through WhatsApp, and the first night there were 300 boys, and then boom, right? And in the height we had 1,500 computers average on a night, and it was quite special. It was more than quite special. We finished Masechtas, and I had a mother email me. I shared this with Coach Menachem at the beginning of the week. probably the craziest email I got. And I wouldn't remember these emails except for my 40th birthday present. My wife took all the emails, not the one saying the password doesn't work, but the other emails, and turned it into a really, really special book. I think it's called 1,000 emails, something like that. But was from a mother of a child who was select mute and wasn't speaking for a few years. And the email said, I don't know what you did, but my son speaks on Night Side America. And she asked for a recording of the Night Side America to bring it to his therapist. That all of a sudden he's speaking in front of 1,000 boys. And when people ask me what it was, other than, again, tremendous siyata d'shmaya, it was people that everyone was stuck at home, so seeing a face was exciting, even though you're next door neighbor. It was tremendously exciting to see faces. There was such a dark feeling of loneliness. The fact that there was connectivity amongst people was powerful and palpable. But it was in a very, very extreme way. But I think it's what any mechanech strives to do, and that it was a way to try to connect, and to make the lanu means that the jokes the kids should get. A rebbe shouldn't compliment a boy who hits a home run in a baseball game in recess and say, "Oh, Yankel, wow, great hit," because the rebbe is supposed to compliment the boy during recess who gets a great hit. But the kids see right through that. You have to enjoy the home run, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up a sports fan and I played sports growing up. A Rebbe that enjoys whether it's sports or whether it's anything else. I don't know if it's a little kid, a little Rebbe, maybe Lego is important to enjoy. But the more that you can relate to that experience in a real way, I think the stronger you can make the connection of the kids. And again, Nights in America was, people ask me, why don't you continue it? And the answer is, Baruch Hashem, everyone's back in the classroom. I think someone told me recently the 3 people that enjoyed COVID were a certain doctor, I'm going to leave out the name in case anyone is related, a certain doctor, Coach Menachem, and Ari Schonfeld. Those are the 3 people that made money on COVID.
Millions.
What?
Millions,
yeah. So I didn't make money on Nights in America, but Baruch Hashem, it was definitely something unique. But to me, it was a window into the ability to connect, obviously through a barrier of Zoom, but it's just a microcosm of what real, I think, Chinuch is.
Okay, Rabbi Ari, let's jump into it. We have a lot of questions, and of course, anybody wants to ask live, let's ask live. We're gonna do a poll. We're gonna get a feeling from what we're dealing with here tonight. Then let's jump into it. Okay. Here we go. 2 questions. As a parent, what do you think is the best way to connect with your child? Spending quality time, getting into whatever they are into, buying them a lot of stuff. 3 choices. Second question. What is the number 1 character trait you would want your child's Rebbe to have? A, skillful natural teacher to just give over the skill of what he's learning good. B, a true role model that my son could look up to. C, the ability to focus on each child individually, to really put the koiches and have each child individually. Or D, have a calm and happy demeanor. What about all of the above, Ari, right?
Yeah, okay, but that's too easy, because of course you want all of the above, right?
Okay, let everybody vote, and then we'll jump into the questions.
The first one is quite fascinating.
Let's see the first one. Let's see. Wow. Okay. Nobody sees the answer yet because I didn't share with everybody. Just wait.
I have a very scary story about the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad the story fits the answer of the polls. So
Perfect. 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What? Okay, we're gonna share this with everybody. Okay. I'm gonna read the first one, and then Ari can comment on it. Okay.
Sure.
As a parent, what do you think is the best way to connect with your children? The overwhelming response, by far, 81% of the people say spending quality time. Only 18% of people say get into whatever they are into, and 1% of people buying them stuff. So I'm assuming
At 1%, one person.
Well, it's 1%. Yeah, it comes out to 1%. Yeah, one person, because that's gotta be a percentage. One person says buying themselves. I'm assuming kids have nothing. Everybody's walking around with that underwear. So everybody's just spending quality time. Okay, Rabbi, what do you say to that? Very interesting.
I'll tell you a scary story. I had a
I feel like
Talmud.
this is what everybody says in the books. All the therapists just spend quality time.
All the time. Yeah, I had a Talmud who was struggling with the relationship with his parents. And his father said to me, I'll take him anywhere in the world. I'll take him, tell him which vacation he wants to go to. Where does he want to go? I'll take him to Paris. I would take him, I think he wanted to buy him a car. And the kid said to me, this was a bacher, but he said to me, Father doesn't chap. I don't want the stuff. I want him. Mamish, b'zeh halashon. So in terms of buying them stuff, I think that's the first one. I was probably just a warm up. It's an easy one, right? In terms of spending quality time, I have to be almost like make a disclaimer in that my wife is on, so I can't profess. I can't profess to be, I don't want to be viewed as a hypocrite. So it's a challenge that we all have. Baruch Hashem, we have busy lives. And I think spending quality time is the challenge of every single parent when it comes to their children and their wives and their families. Spending quality time, the aside of quality time, it's all the same. I think you're gonna hear a very common theme from me tonight, and I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel. The aside of quality time shows that they matter to you. That's it. That's all it is. That's why all children want is for their parents to view them as something that's important. And I had a 10th. Oh, I said that grade already. It was a long time ago. But one of my talmidim, it was a 10th grader, and he was struggling. And his parents, real good chashava, b'nai Torah, came to Parents Teachers Conference. And first they thought I was in 10th grade. So that was the first 2 minutes of Parents Teachers Conference, having to explain to them, no, I'm not in 10th grade. I'm your son's Rebbe. Fine. And then I have a son. I also have a son in 10th grade. So that was like, took him a while to get over that. And then I said to the father, and he probably wasn't ready for this question. Here I am, I'm a Rebbe, it was in a wonderful Masifta. And I said to the father, does your son know that you love him? And the father was not ready for that question. Like oh my God, right? That's a very 2000, and I don't know. I don't think my father, who's here tonight, I don't think my father ever got asked that question by Rabbi Licht or Rabbi Lobenstein when I was in 10th grade. I don't think my father went to Parents Teachers Conference when I was in 10th grade, but I don't think he got that question. But, so he says to me, of course he knows. And his wife slaps him like that, right in front of me, like bam, oh, come on. And he says, I tell him that all the time. And she says, yeah, but you know and he knows that you know that you don't really mean it. This is in front of me. I'm like, hello, I'm right here. Hi. And he says to me, it's not so easy. His younger brother's a Mitzuyan. So he's like, just says it. It's not so easy. His younger brother's Mitzuyan. So he says, but, I told him, and I'll change the names. I told him, I said, Yankee, everyone's going to be Yankee tonight. So no one call if I have a Talmud Yankee. Don't mun me for it. I told him once, I said, Yankee, you know that if I was ever stuck on an island, I would pick you. So you see how much I machshav him. So I said to him, on Choldix, but your son's reaction, what he's internalizing from that is, we're never going to be on an island together, because it's not how often are you on an island. So basically you have no use for me. Because if the only time you need me is when you're stuck on an island, what am I to you? It's quality time is a hechetimsa to show chashivas, is to show that your son, your daughter, your Talmud matters. It's just as simple as that.
You know the joke with the quality time I'm getting.
No.
There was once a boy that he wasn't doing so well. So the Rebbe said, whatever the son does, get into it. So the son said, let's go to a movie. You know the story? No. So the guy was a chashva guy. He said, listen, the Rebbe said he should go to a movie. He went with his son to the movie. It was one of his movies. The father obviously was very older man. He learned a lot. He fell asleep during the movie. So at the end of the movie, son gives him a hit. He stands and goes, "Chanan rekasha, Rotzakosh Baruch Hu Zakas Yisrael." Okay, the second poll. What's the number one character trait you want your child's Rebbe to have? Number one, a skillful natural teacher, only 5% of people. 31% of people, a true role model that the son can look up to. The number one answer is the ability to focus on each child individually, 51% of people. 12% of people have a calm and a happy demeanor. Seems like the individually thing is a big thing.
I mean, the answer is obviously yes. The answer is all of above. To me, there's a famous story to Chaim, right? That they asked Reb Chaim. There were two people that were up for the stellar to be a chazan. One was a choshev Talmid Chacham, Yireh Shamayim, a masmid, and he had an okay voice. And the other one was a cantor, a chazan, a beautiful, but a pashut balabas. So they asked Reb Chaim, who should we pick as chazan? Thinking, of course, Reb Chaim is going to say the choshev Talmid Chacham, and Reb Chaim said the chet nish tashal is not ein chazan, right? In other words, in order to be a chazan, there are certain things that are li'ikuva that you have to have, and that is a very nice voice. That's what a chazan is. Avada, yeah, you have to have a chazan, you have to have other qualities, but a chazan is someone with a nice voice. So a Rebbe who has, a speech impediment and can't speak properly, obviously if you can't say the words, then a Rebbe can't be a Rebbe. A Rebbe that's disorganized is a hard time, what's it called? Getting through to children. But the side of a Rebbe is someone who cares. Focusing on it's someone who cares. I never forget, my brother-in-law was making a chasna tomorrow night, Eli Gross. So he's a wonderful fellow, and he lives on the Upper West Side. He's chash of a family. Balabas, very nice fellow and a balabas, and he kept talking about his Rebbe from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Prager. This is 15 years ago. This is not before Prager's was around, so this is different. Right? This is not Prager's. And I once went to for Shabbos. He told me my Rebbe's coming. So my brother-in-law is a little bit of a cool guy. So I was expecting a really, really cool guy to walk in the room. And Rabbi Prager was a Stalin chassid, mit the Shmeine Begadim, with a verkraselde kapayas and a streimel, and he was a stille mensch. He was just a zisa stille mensch. And he walked in, my brother, it was like Moshe Rabbeinu who came in, because he cared about him. And it's, you have to really care. I'm in a position now where people speak to me when they, especially now at the camp, so I have counselors and division, should I go into Chinuch? And I tell them I will never tell anyone to go into Chinuch because I'm not paying your bills. Turns out now that I'm a manal, maybe I can give you a job. So I have to maybe change my answer. But even that doesn't pay, right? You have to get real sipak nefesh for being a Rebbe. And if you're going into Chinuch because, my gather is the following, and I don't know if this sounds controversial or not. Lahavdil, if you weren't Jewish, would you still want to go into education? And if the answer is no, then don't go in. In other words, if you want to be marbitz Torah, then write Sfarim. And if you want to be marbitz Torah, write Sfarim and record and things like that. But it's just the ability. You have to just love your Talmidim. There's no other way. And of course, focusing on the child, again, that's something that the Rebbe needs to work on. But he has to just love his Talmidim. I know that's Reb David Trank's book, right? Just love them. But he has to really, really care. And it's very simple. You'll know your Rebbe cares. I have some of my children, I can think of specifically ones that have a Rebbe right now that cares in such a powerful way, and it gets flipped right back. My mother, who just retired after 40 years of being this type of Mora, she just got honored at Beis Yaakov of Queens. So just two things. One is that the quote they said over Moshe Newman, Zechron Levracha, was just nifter, was, if you give the child your heart, they will give you their mind. And the story they said over about my mother was, someone said that her daughter woke up with fever. And they said, okay, Rachi is Rachel, so you can't go to school today. And she said, I have to. More Perry's going to miss me. How could I not go? Right? I think that's all the rest is you could go to Rabbi Yoel Kramer for, right? And to learn how to manage a classroom and to learn how to give it over. All of that is, I'm not taking away his chashivas, but the aside is always, does it matter to you that kid, struggles or is matzliach? How much does it matter?
Ari, I have to throw a question to you. What would you tell to a parent?
Who?
I'm saying all of that is a Rebbe. You're telling him, if you have these qualities, you can become a Rebbe. You have to love them. What's if parents have a hard time?
Parents have a hard time loving their child?
Figuring it out. It's hard. It's a challenge.
So one of my chashuv...
No option.
So first we have no option. Yes. One of my chashuv rebbeim, who I got, I just saw his name floating. So it could be his honor, Rabbi Rupp, 6th grade Rebbe in Yeshiva K'tana, Manhattan. He told me a very, very powerful line this year because we were struggling. This is in yeshiva. We were struggling with one of the Talmidim. And he said to me, he was quoting someone who told us to him. It was a chashuv Rebbetzin, I think, a long time ago. And the zug was, when they have earned your love the least, that's when they need it the most. And that's easier said than done. As a parent, that is easier said than done. But just tonight, I was at a dinner, at 7 o'clock tonight, B'Yeshiva K'tana Pesach, and everyone thought for sure, how could you be here? You have a thing. I'm the amount of people that came over to me. How are you going to be in two places at once? And someone came over to me about their son who doesn't get up to Shachris and sleeps till 10. A bacher, an older bacher, post-based medrash.
And not so bad.
What?
10's not so bad.
I was cleaning up the story, so he doesn't know that who I'm talking about. And he says to me, I walk into my son's room. I walked in this room this morning, and I don't say anything to him, but he knows how bad I feel, and he knows how much it bothers me. What do I do with that? That's what he said to me. So I said to him two things. I told him this zug of when your child has earned your love the least, they need it the most. And then I said to him the most powerfully line that I learned recently, and it's the nafkamina between guilt and shame. And Coach Menachem is the expert. I'm ready. I'm going above my pay grade, but I'll try. And that is, it's such a powerful one-liner. Guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is I am a mistake. And to feel guilty is I did an aveira or I didn't live up to, right? So therefore, we're not, there's consequences and there's charva einish and there's ability to be misakin and to work on ourselves, but the self-esteem and the self-worth, someone who feels because I made that mistake, therefore ich bin garnished, right? Leaving all the Navardic jokes aside, right? But someone who really feels ich bin garnished has a hard time finding any reason to get going. So as a parent, and we struggle much more as a parent because we feel our children's, the nachas we get is much stronger, and therefore the disappointment we get is much stronger. Some of it's because we live vicariously through our children, we view it as our own failures, right? Again, that's all the psychoanalysis I'll lead to Coach Menachem. But we definitely have a harder time as a parent taking a step back and thinking what's best for the child, but consequences are allowed to be. But you have to, b'mimi karv small daichef is real. There has to be, it can never be that even while you're hitting the child doesn't know that you love them. It can never be. That has to be, and again, I'm speaking very big, like a big shot. I struggle with this as every parent does. It's easier as a Rebbe. It's easier as a Rebbe because you can send them home at night. And they don't wake you up in the middle of the night. And they don't, it's easier as a Rebbe. But nevertheless.
Okay, Rabbi Ari, let's get in. We have a lot of questions here, live ones. Let's jump into it. And let's really dissect everything, okay?
Sure.
You're on first. Let's go. Hi,
Rabbi Schonfeld. Thank you for taking my question. I never knew about Night Seder America just until I found out about this show. But the way I understood a little bit is there was some sort of program. They made learning fun, Geshmack for the Bachrim, interactive and everything. It's just a question of thought I had because I was brought up in a different generation. And in my generation, fun wasn't so much of a thing to help us grow. We had there was only one Rebbe I remember we had that gave raffles every day, but all the other time it was hard work and was pressure, and there was sometimes a little competition, and there was the need to get a high mark. And apparently I'm seeing maybe today's Mahalach maybe can't go like that. I don't know. I mean, I just want to know, how do we balance the idea to let the kids have fun, and also this idea that, not using fun as a crutch. So sometimes, some days something's challenging and hard, we got to work hard and just not just give up because today is not a fun day.
I think this is, I once heard Rabbi Osband used to give a shrei once. Your son came home from yeshiva and you said to him, did you have fun today? Melernt! Das is, right? You had fun today? So I'm going to push back softly. First of all, when you say different dar, I don't know, your video's off, so I don't know what dar you think I'm from. But, I grew up in the 80s. So again, I look a little bit different than my age. But fun is again, I don't mean to sound like Moshe Shiva or Kalman Epstein, but I don't know what the word fun means. Meaning fun, it's not about playing kickball so that the boys, just give extra recess for no reason. It's about connectivity. And again, speaking about, I'm not saying Meisi Shema or Lashon Hara and the Friede Gedar, but in the 50s and 60s, let's go back to that dar, right? In the 50s and 60s, when there was not fun, when it was hard work and taskmasters, and you went to yeshiva no matter what, right? I'm not an expert in data, but that dar is not all from. It's very, very much, we glorify the glory days, but I don't know, the boys that were able to that boys that had strong families and had a certain chashivas for Torah, they were gavaldik. But the boys and girls that didn't have strong families and couldn't relate to buying rubber right away and needed someone to relate to them, I don't know what happened to them. It's not about fun, and rather raffles and incentives are very controversial in the educational field. The sipak hanefesh you're supposed to get as a child is the limud alein, is the actual learning. If you base your entire classroom on incentives, you're just gonna create sugar, candy kids. And so it's not about fun, it's about connection. And if you want your child, I'm a 7th grade Rebbe, and you're learning Bava Kama, and in the 7th grade right now is learning Ishaskisu, the sugya of Ishaskis with thank you Simcha, is learning the sugya of Ishaskis, hard sugya in Bava Kama. And you want your Rabbi Tisser, who's a golden Rebbe. Yeah, everyone should come to my yeshiva to watch Rabbi Tisser the way he deals with the boys. If you want that 7th grader to get into the Sugya of Ishaskis and Bava Kama, then you better get into his world. So whether that means telling a funny story, a funny joke, or making it Geshmack, it's not about fun. It's not about raffling off soda at the end of every day. It's about creating an environment in which the boy is excited to come to yeshiva and he feels his Rebbe gets him. So I never use the word fun. So I'm against fun. Fun's horrible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go to the next live question. Unmute. Okay, you're on.
Hi, I was just wondering if you can give me some suggestions. I have an 8-year-old that I'm working very hard to gain her trust. And she told me that she needs me to talk to her more gently. I do have a hard time doing that. I was wondering if you have any suggestions.
So what does that mean? You have a hard time talking to her gently? I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, because I told her, like, I repeat myself more than once to her. Like, I say it again. I said, please do this for me. Please do this. Please get this for me. And she just would always, like, she just doesn't.
Can I ask if this is is this a child or a
Yeah, 8-year-old, the 8-year-old child. Yeah.
Oh, a child.
Yeah.
What
I
she doesn't
asked her what
tell
I
you?
need to do, so she said, "Talk to me more gently."
Wow. What? But I don't. What? So again, does she think that you're tough on her? Is it tough?
Probably.
So
Ask her, ask
I don't. So I am not a. I've been described as many things. I have never been described as gentle. So, but I will tell you a very powerful and I think scary story that I heard from Rabbi Yossi Elephant, very chashuv mechanech in Eretz Yisrael. And I don't know who you are, and I'm not at all. I'm just telling you a story, and that is that I was dealing with one of my talmidim who was in Eretz Yisrael, and was struggling, big time, and a lot of struggling. So I called him Elephant, and I said, "Can you help this boy?" He said, "Sure." I'm pausing because I want to be careful. I have to be careful. You know what? Give me 1 second. Okay, I can say the story. And I said to him, he said, "Well, tell me about the family." And I said, one of his parents is a chashuv person, a little tough, but chashuv. And he said to me, "Rabbi Schonfeld, how old are you?" So I said, "I'm 40. I'm a little bit older than you. So maybe it'll take you a few years to figure this out. There's no such thing as a good, tough parent." That was his line. There's firm, but tough is I'm telling you his line to me. There's no such thing as a good, tough parent. So I don't know your daughter. I don't know you. I will just tell you, your question was, whenever I tell her, "Get me this, get me that, get me this, get me that," and she says, "Ask nicely," if you can somehow combine the get me's with the gives, then you know, if you can show her that you give, and it's a two-way relationship. Rabbi Yisachar friend went to the Zog, parents are not ATM machines. Sometimes we think they are, but I can't speak to your daughter. I could just say that if children think that we're tough, that really is a way of saying that they think there's kas, and kas is kolakais ki'ilu oived v'dezara, says the Gemara in. I'm laughing. My father just told me this Gemara today. Gemara in Shabbos. It's a Zohar. It's a Gemara in Nedarim. Yeah, that's the goal is to be soft but firm, and to ask your daughter why. I don't think I'm being tough. What is it? What am I doing that's tough? Just asking you to clean up the soda that you spilled on the floor.
I think asking is the best thing, but you're not always going to be happy with their answer.
Right.
But to have a discussion with your 8-year-old, I know a lot of people would say no.
There's a book called Creative Schools. There's a very chashuv educator's name is Ken Robinson. And in that he has a chapter, I'm not suggesting to every yeshiva, it's called democracy yeshivas. In other words, yeshivas that their entire their entire consequences are all voted on by the kids. And basically his point is that it basically comes out to the same exact system that we have in our school system.
They chose it.
They chose it. So they feel that they are lanu, that it's theirs.
Very good. So here's a interesting, a little tough question. This is my son did something that I had no choice but to give him a consequence. He's going through a rough time, and she says her husband was nifta a few years ago. How do I be a firm single mother and displace at the same time, not to alienate or hurt my child?
So I once asked Common Epstein a personal tough shaila, my Rashiva and Shara Torah, and he told me it's above my pay grade. And I came to him a week later and I asked him if he got a raise. And he said no. So really, I haven't gotten a raise, and this is way above my pay grade. So to me, a single mother who's bringing up children is a hero, and is chashuv mesiras nefesh. It's and the tsar that comes with is unimaginable. I don't feel like you can ever judge. Never someone who goes to such a tzara, because the mother has to turn into the father, the Gemara, what's it called, and the friend and the disciplinarian. It's overwhelming in best case scenarios. I can just tell my own experience, and again, I was once dealing with a yasum that I had to punish. I thought I had to punish. A yasum did something that I thought deserved a real big punishment. And I didn't want to suspend the yasum. I thought that was a big suspending a yasum to me is in Pekuach Nevesh. I called Rabbi Yaakov Bender, and he told me based on what this kid did, he felt he had to be suspended. So I suspended him. However, I had a minig with that kid that I played chess with him every Wednesday in my office. So I suspended him. Punkt, it was a Wednesday. So I came to his house after I suspended him to play chess with him. And I didn't think I was being fake. I didn't think I was. I thought that's being min mekarev with small deichef. And again, I'm just a Rebbe. So for me, it's not my life. It's not my son. Baruch Hashem. I'm married. So I'm not judging, or I'm not saying what's simply and easy to be done. But that mother who is allowed to give a consequence, the consequences are part of normal chinuch. Somehow, inside the einish has to be ava. That's just it. That's what it is. Inside the einish has to be ava. One of my uncles used to hit his children way back when you were allowed to hit your children. But before them, he would never hit out of kas. He would calm down. He would say l'shem mitzvah chinuch, and then he would hit. And you're allowed to give a kid a punishment, a consequence if they deserve it. And if you're a single mother, then it's even harder. But it has to be. The yesod is very simple. I'll tell you an amazing line. It's such a daher. When I lived in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Greenwald, the head of Ma'ar, he gave chinuch classes. So he said the following mahalach. We talk about hitting kids. And he quoted from Shlomo Volbi, you don't hit today. And he said, if you want to hit your child today, I said, I'm not even going to get into the hashkafa behind it. Mutter, asr. He said, I'll leave that for the side. You live in America, and you want to hit your child. Right? Keep in mind the following mitzias. Your son is growing up in a world where culturally hitting is child abuse. That's the culture in the United States of America. Again, I'm leaving out what the Torah hashkafa is. Your child lives in a world where hitting is child abuse. So the only heter you have to hit your child, it has to be for chinuch, right? Has to be that when he goes to school the next day, he's a 5th grader, and you just patched him because he was chutzpahdik to your wife. That's usually what sets us off as fathers, right? When they're chutzpahdik to the mother, that's what set off my father. And here I am. But when you if you hit him, he's going to go to yeshiva the next day, and this is the only way. And his history teacher talking about current events, how someone was arrested in Boca Raton, Florida, for hitting a child because it's child abuse. And your son has to turn to the teacher in the class and say, what? My father hits me, but he only hits me because he loves me. Child abuse? In other words, the hitting has to be in a way that the message that the child receives is ava. Good luck, right? Good luck. Because that's what hitting today is viewed as abuse. Even if you think it's not. But that's what your son grows up with. So you have to hit him in a way that he receives it as ava. And really it's every onish, every consequence. Your child, kas is scary. And we all listen, I am far from perfect. Very, very far. I should bring in some of my children to testify. Rabbi Silverman's thinking of one specific one. But to testify on my lack of perfection. That's the challenge is ava, and you're allowed to punish. You're allowed to be so upset, but at the end of the day, and maybe it's at the end of the night, why they know that you love them.
Okay, you're on. Hi.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, amazing. Rabbi Schonfeld, thank you so much for this. I actually know somebody who works in your school, and she had many good things to say, so I'm glad to have you here. I am here. I do not have children yet, but I'm ready to do what I need to do to make myself the best future mother I can be. And what can I do to practice, improve myself, train myself to create the environment to bring out the best of my children before I have any? Thank you.
Very simple. You go to this farm store and you buy it to Tehillim. That's what you do. There's no. I'm not. I don't know. Ask my wife. I'll call my wife then. Maybe she'll tell you. There is no mahalach. It's. When I had my first child, Mrs. Kramer, Rabbi Gershon Kramer's wife, very chashuv lady, told me, my bracha to you is that Tsar Gidul Banim should consist of broken shoelaces. It's the more that you can work on yourself to be in control and be a better person, the better mother, father, friend, husband you'll be. The more of a giver that you are, and the more of someone that's willing to be there for others and to be empathetic towards others, the better everything you'll be. So if you were saying to me, I'm ready to go out into the workforce, and other than working on how do I be a better person in the office, or how do I be a better Rebbe, how do I be a better husband, how do I be a better friend, the answer is work on Tikkun Amidas. Work on yourself to be someone that is that cares about people, and you will mess up a tremendous amount of time. Mit Hashem, you'll have many children, and it's just at the end of the day, they have to have that belief that my parents are everything to me. I'll just share a story that my father said about my grandfather, Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld, Zechron Levracha, who was a very chashuv person, was larger than life for me personally and my whole family, and was a rabbi who, if 87% said spent quality time with their child, then he failed that test because he did not spend quality time with his children. He was a rabbi and running, a large part of Klal Yisrael in the 1950s and 60s. And one of the most, I'll say it, I'll try to say it as best as I can. My father said one of the most powerful episodes of Chinuch for him when he was in 9th grade and he was in yeshiva, and his father felt he was hanging out with the wrong chevra, and he pulled him aside and he said, if I ever hear that you act out and act like these hooligans and do hooligan type stuff. So my father was expecting the next line to be, I will throw you off the roof. And instead my grandfather said, I will jump off the roof. And my father said it was the most powerful line, and he repeats it today, more than 50 years later, that his father, he meant so much to his father that if you act out in a way and that brings your neshama down, it will be too painful to me to bear. That was, in one sentence, a father that was busier than busy, showed his son that you mean everything to me.
Okay, let's get into it. A bunch of questions over here. My 13-year-old 8th grader is in yeshiva, but he's really not enjoying going. Every day is a battle. What can I do as a parent to be supportive and help him through this?
So I was a Rebbe for 8th grade for 9 years. This is why. Again, the old question is always why. Why is it bad? Why does he want to go? It's always the why, right? Why does he want to go? Right? Is he right? The reality is that children want to. We want to be good people, right? Anyone that acts out is acting out of whether it's pain or whether it's a feeling that he's not belonging. So the question is why? Why does the child not want to go to yeshiva, right? Why is he struggling? It's usually because he feels that he's not being matzliach in yeshiva, and therefore it doesn't matter, and all I do is horrible for me, right? Now this is an existential shaila on our chinuch system. At the Torah Masara convention this year, one of the most powerful speeches I ever heard was, I think his name is Rabbi Gershon Miller, correct me if I'm wrong. He runs the Moistus in Detroit. An amazing speaker. First of all, it was an English accent, so obviously that's automatic. But he's a very chashuv from England, supremely powerful in chashuv, his drasha. And his zog was that maybe the reason why people are going off the derech, and this was the term, 1,000 people were sitting in the audience, almost as many as people that listen to the podcast. And he said, maybe the reason why so many people are going off the derech is because the derech isn't wide enough. And if the derech would be wider, less people would fall off. It was like a jolt, and you see the whole. There's a bunch of Rebbeim and Menachem. It was like a ouch. It was like a mic drop, right? And he said, "Chanoich lenaro pidarka." Everyone says "Chanoich lenaro pidarka," but it's always said as a b'diavad. Yeah, as a kid who's struggling, "Chanoich lenaro pidarka." It's not the b'diavad. It's lechatchila. That was his whole shrai. That was a shrai. It was powerful. He started with stories with him. So me and a bunch of Menachem went over to him afterwards, and we said, "Okay, go. You ready?" So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out an hour and a half of Gemara because there are kids that are struggling Gemara, and we're going to introduce drama to yeshiva, and we're going to have a basketball team, right? And then we're going to have a choir for the 7th and 8th grade, and we're going to go on more trips and have more fun, right? But can we? Chas v'shalom. So he didn't have an answer, meaning he said, "Yeah, it's a shver arbit," right? This is the sugya in Klal Yisrael today, is that we live with a chinuch system that is predicated overwhelmingly on kriya, on taich, on reading, on havana, on Gemara. And I was an 8th grade Rebbe for a long time. And the parents used to man me, "You don't learn enough chumash, you don't learn enough navi, you don't learn enough halach." And I said, tell them that I've had, in my yeshiva last year, so I had an interesting type of yeshiva. I've had boys apply from TABC, which is a modern Orthodox, a wonderful high school in Bernfeld, to Philly. So this is my gamut of the boys in my class. And I said, no matter where your boy goes next year, his menahel will feher him on one thing and one thing only, a piece of Gemara. So don't blame me as the menahel, don't blame me as the 8th grade Rebbe. The mesiftas, the high schools, whatever strand of orthodoxy you are in, it is Gemara based, the entrance exam. And all I care about is to get your son into the best high school possible, the best mesifta possible. So our chinuch system is Gemara. It's Gemara based. It's Teresh Bal Peh, it's Kriya based. It's Havana based. So you have a kid who's dyslexic and he's in 8th grade. So good luck, right? So someone asked me recently, I was speaking in Farakaway, and someone said, "No, so what do you do? Hakam Gemara." So I said, it's a question for the Miyatzis. It's a question for Torah Messiah. And my yeshiva, I have my own Dal Ramas that I'm trying to work with. So in Yeshiva Time Manhattan, we try as many things. Yeah, we do have a Purim play. And you try to make sure that the boy that knows the Gemara Bal Peh is not the lead actor in the play. And you make sure that the basketball court is in good shape. And that 8th grader that's struggling, if I had to learn chemistry all day, I'd be struggling also. And it's just I'm struggling because I don't have a good teretz. I had an 8th grader who graduated a few years, and I called the mother up and I said, "Mrs. So-and-so, I want to give you a piece of advice." And she said, "Okay." And her son was mamash one of these. He was an incredibly talented kid. Tichtig, Alamailas, a blat Gemara ken anish reden. Couldn't read Gemara. And I said, "Don't let Mesifta ruin your son." And she's like, "Rabbi, what are you doing?" I said, "Your son is a star. He's going to make a lot of money one day." So I called it first, so I want in. He's going to be like your husband, who's involved in the chevra, who's a gabbai, who's an askin. He's going to be a bomb. The only way your son won't be a bomb for Klal Yisrael, bomb l'toiv, a superstar, is if his struggles in Mesifta in learning Bikiyas at 150 with a 10th grade Rebbe, which I was, that had to do a blot a week because he had to finish Masechtas Bava Basra, and he's going to go out of his mind. I hope that Rebbe doesn't turn him off. Because as long as he could bounce his way through Mesifta, and he will be an absolute star. And she was crying on the phone. She was crying. First, because she was not expecting that. and she was scared. But I think she felt mechuzik in the sense that your 13-year-old son who's not really going every day is a battle. What can you do? You have to somehow make him feel and that he is a superstar. Just recently, 2 weeks ago, I called up a mother of a young, it's not 8th grade, but it's the same side, of a younger student in my yeshiva. And I said, "Mrs. Goldstein," and there's no Goldstein in my school, so I'll use that name. I said, "Mrs. Goldstein, I want you to save this voice note. Because there are going to be times when your son is going to get in trouble, and he's going to struggle, and you're going to have to play this voice note." Her son is a kid that struggles academically. He is musically gifted. He is unbelievably musically gifted. And he came into my office. He's like, "Rabbi Schonfeld, I just wrote a new song. This kid is not writing songs. He's younger than fifth grade. That's all. Younger than fifth grade, and he just on the spot sang a song and was twirling around. He was just singing on the spot. I mean, no, it wasn't 1,000 voices. It wasn't Yishai 11, but it was it was a song. And then I went. We had a barbecue for Lag BaOmer, and the drummer was there. And this kid I watched a little kid, little kid, just went over to the drummer without anyone looking and just started drumming. Boom, on beat. I said, your son is a star. He rather might not finish Shas by the time he's 22. But he's a star. He's gifted. He's funny. He's bright. He's talented. We're going to forget this because in 3 weeks from now, I'm going to call you into my office because he got thrown out of class and he's driving us crazy. I'm going to want to suspend him. Play me this voice note. Please. I said to the mother. Then I probably erased it. But I sent it to her because we have... you could stop me, Yoshi, if I'm rambling. So I'll you can mute me. But there's a very chashuv educator. His name is Rick Lavoie. Chacham Abagayim Tam, and he's unbelievable. Everything he says is gold. And his line was, if your son has only one talent in the world, and that talent is using a Phillips screwdriver, then you better make sure to unscrew every single piece of furniture in your house. It's like, mwah, right? You have to find everyone. Just find it. That's what camp has a big chelik in that. But in yeshiva, it's find it. It's doable. You have to find it. It's our achrayus to find it. Otherwise, that 8th grader is going to come to yeshiva and feel like an absolute nothing. And why shouldn't he? He can't read Gemara. Can't read.
So here's a question from a 4th grade Rebbe.
Okay.
I'm a 4th grade Rebbe, and I have a student that is great, nice kid, but can't sit still for more than 1 minute. He's bouncing around all over the classroom. I've met with the parents, but there's no one home. What can I, as a Rebbe, do to support him and give him the loving Rebbe that he needs in his life?
You know the joke, right? The joke that goes with this, with the boy bouncing off the walls and the Rebbe? I mean, I imagine it's Kedai. The Rebbe calls up the mother and she says, your son is bouncing off the walls. He needs meds or else I won't let him come back to class. She calls up Yankov, refuses to take it. And finally she convinced him to take it. 2 weeks later, the Rebbe calls the mother and she says, different kid, thank you. So she calls over Yankov, says, Yankov, I know it wasn't easy for you. I'm so proud of you. And he says, proud of me for what? For taking the medication. I don't take the medication. It's like, what do you mean? Yeah, I put it in my Rebbe's coffee. So, the kid bouncing off the walls, Rav Daniel Kela Shlita, who's from the Chashuvei Mechanchim. I think he's probably the most listened to Coach Menachem, maybe. I don't know.
He's up there, not the most.
Up there. Until tonight, obviously. So I had the chus of being maybe his first Talmud, maybe, when he came back from the Mir Yeshiva in 1995. I was in 10th grade, and he gave shiur in the canteen. And I was the sweeper. Rabbi Bernfeld is kvelling. I was the sweeper. I slept the base medrash, like the Gedolei Olam. And I went to shiur from Daniel Kessler. So his line is, if no one has ADHD and ADD, then who's going to be the Rebbeim? Who's going to be the Rebbeim? That's his that's his line. So in terms of a kid that's off the rocker, most Rebbeim, that's what makes a Rebbe is the showman, right? The magic of a classroom. But you have kids like that struggle. I'm gonna be a little bit sharp because the way you phrased the question. Your question was, there's no one home. So what does that mean? There's no one home.
Probably the parents they don't pick up the phone.
Then you really don't have a shot. Then you could love him and you could plant seeds, but it's a shutfis. It's a shutfis.
But that's really the question. What could the Rebbe do? What's his part? Look, these kids always come back later, years later, they say they had one Rebbe that understood them. So what could he do to be that one Rebbe?
It's, the kid that's bouncing off the walls. It's so hard because the Rebbe, we like this. It's such an idealistic. This is so much fun tonight. Sorry for the word, but
It's not practical. Such a kid
Right.
in the classroom is not
Exactly.
practical.
Exactly. You have 15 kids in a class. You get bouncing off the walls, so you love him and you care about him. No, you then you throw him out on his head because you can't teach. So part of that again is getting the kid the help they need and getting him evaluated and making sure that if he needs medication on medication. We had a kid in yeshiva in the last year or so that it was like great. The kid couldn't focus. The kid couldn't read. He had a reading problem. Reading problem. No, he didn't. His parents took him to an eye doctor and he couldn't see. It's like scary, right? This kid was not in first grade, older kid. So if a kid's bouncing off the walls, why is he bouncing off the walls? I had a kid this year who told me, one of the bouncers, Rabbi Schonfeld, I'm only half here today. I said, what does that mean? The other half of my mind is in Minecraft, which is a video game, right? So, when you have that, why is he bouncing off the walls because his parents aren't home physically? Is he bouncing off the walls because he underwent trauma? It's a sugya. It's a sugya that has to be talked in. And if you're a Rebbe, that kid has to believe that you're his, that you'll run through the wall for him, that you'll do anything for him, and it's Rabbi Ari. I remember my first year as a Rebbe. I was in Shiva Spring Valley, and we were learning Hakonis. We're doing Chazar, and I was on fire. It was like the highlight of my life, right? We had a Chazaring. It was amazing. It was gewaldig. And I mispronounced a word, and I said a little bit funny, and a kid took it, turned it perverted, and said a perverted joke back to me, right? And I'm like, oh, this is my moment, right? I'm going to change the world right now. So I stopped, and I looked at the kid, and I said, if you could, I was so proud of such a lumdish avart. I said to him, 7th grade, I said, if you can make a joke like that in the middle of Chazara of a whole parak, then we're not learning Gemara, we're doing math. It's math. It's a regular subject. I'm not a math teacher, I'm a Rebbe. And I slammed my Gemara and I walked out. And I was so pumped. I taught them what Torah is. It was amazing. I walked into the Rebbe room, and Rabbi Weinberger was a super, very chashuv Rebbe in Shiva Spring Valley. He saw, I was like, whew. And I said, I want to hear what I just did. And I told him the mice, and he's like, oh, he starts laughing. And he says, you know that tomorrow they're going to say the same joke when this Gemara comes up again. It's like, you know that, right? You didn't change them. You didn't change them. He said, and I'm going to tell you something, you're an elementary school Rebbe, so it's a little scary. And if you can't handle this, then get out. You're planting seeds. That's all you're doing. You're not going to see the payers. An 11th grade Rebbe could give a shmooze and change. I'm not going to call Yisrael today because of a shmooze that I heard in camp when I was in 12th grade. Shia Hershkowitz, who tried to get us. Oh, that's your Rebbe, right? Yeah, she's right. First, he tried to pull the cord on the band when he played Piamenta, and then he made every macha that anything that we ever did wrong in Camp Heller. Rabbi Hershkowitz was there to stop, but he was amazing. And he once gave a shmooze about keeping Chol Yisrael, and on the spot I decided to keep Chol Yisrael. And my wife is not Michael me, but so in the Sifta, when the boys are ready on their own to make that, you could do it. Elementary school Rebbe said all you're doing. He said this. I once heard this from Rebellia Svei. Elementary school Rebbe is planting seeds. That's all you're doing. And if you can't get Sipuk HaNefesh from the Zriya, then you can't stay in the job. And Rebellia said that the Olam thinks that Hatzlacha in learning is saying over the Reb Chaim. That's a slach as a Rebbe. So I'll give it the Reb Chaim, right? The Chazanish and the Chakiri said that's sehr fine. It's Arbatzas HaTorah. That's not a Rebbe. He said because the boy that is understanding the Reb Chaim, he doesn't need you. He'll get the Reb Chaim from someone else. He can read Reb Chaim on his own. That's not Hatzlacha. Those are nicht Hatzlacha. Right? Rebellia said that Hatzlacha as a Rebbe is you have a boy that's sitting in the 10th grade. He doesn't listen to one word you said the whole year. His head was down. But you were there for him, and there was that Maso Matan was there. He didn't get one word. Doesn't know what Masechta you learned. And he leaves yeshiva, and he gets married, and he marries a woman, and he's barely Shomer Shabbos, and he has a child, and his child is 6 years old and lives out in the island, and they're debating public school, day school, public school, day school. And because of you, that little he sends to day school. That's Hatzlacha. So the answer to that 4th grade Rebbe is you're not going to see Paris. Al pi derech hateva. This boy's going to leave 4th grade off his rocker, and until his family gets better, until his own personality gets worked out, he's going to struggle. and you're gonna just keep planting seeds and planting seeds and planting seeds. And if you can't, and maybe in one day, he's gonna be 23. He's gonna come back, and you're not gonna recognize him. You're not gonna believe it, and you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know.
So that's the topic tonight: how to plant seeds with Geshmack.
Okay, Rabbi Schonfeld, somebody texted a question. It's a good question. It's a twofold question. My husband is tough with my son, and I'm more gentle mom. How do we balance?
Now that I use the word tough, remember?
Right, but this is the bottom line. He's tough.
Okay.
Tough with my son, and I'm more gentle mom. How do we balance it without showing my husband I disagree with him and showing the child that we're disagreeing? Number two, a little bit what we spoke about before. He's almost being bar mitzvah, and he's the kid that I must wake up 30 plus minutes every morning.
Did my wife send you this?
Yeah. I wake up every morning and would be the happiest to stay sleeping until 1 p.m. if I didn't wake him up. What's your guidance or suggestions? So 2 questions.
Okay. What's the first part?
First part is basically the husband's the tough one and she's the gentle one. The husband probably
She's a from Jewish woman. Yeah.
Husband probably wakes up at 6:30 in the morning with a hot cup of water. Gets him up. She's like, no, let him sleep, and then she, wakes him up. How do you balance that out without showing the kids first of all, and also without having a shalom bayis issue out of it?
I feel like someone is like in my house, and I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now. I have a 7th grade son who's become bar mitzvah soon, who's one of the greatest people in the world. Rabbi Silverman can attest to that. Some of his rebbeim are here, and I have a wife who's much nicer than I am. So anything I say will be used against me in a court of law. So the real answer is, it boils down, and I'm not a shalom bayis expert, but it boils down to shalom bayis, the first part of the question. I will say that the more mature, if I can use that word about myself, I have gotten, the more I have realized that the chachma and bina of chinuch habanim is with the wife and with the mother, and it's almost always that the initial reaction, which is to be tough, of the father, is based on either kas, which is obviously chazar treif, or a need to project either insecurities or a need for people to see me in a certain way. I'm speaking. I am being vulnerable right now. I'm going to go a little bit. I'm being Brene Brown, if you know who that is.
There's a few people sending in the chat that they feel the same way. You're not the only one.
Okay, cool. We should have a group chat. We should have group therapy afterwards.
The ego.
But so I think it's something that most stable from men, yeshiva light, balbatim, struggle with, in that we also are under pressure, and we do it, so why can't you? And that I would say to listen to your wife. That would be first of all. The wives have a much, much better understanding of the chinuch and really the temperament of the child. Again, so I think shalom bayis, and if you don't have, I don't mean to be so stark, but if there's no shalom bayis between the husband and wife, then your child is gonna have a very hard time. He's gonna have a very, very hard time hearing mixed messages and picking sides and running to one and playing one off of the other, right? There has to be shalom bayis. The better your marriage is, the better your chinuch will be. That's Aleph, Beis, and Gimel. That's really the answer. In terms of your child that wants to sleep until 10 because he's a 7th grader, and of course he wants to sleep till 10. Why doesn't he want? Why does he want to go to yeshiva? And it's about, what's the line again? Rick Lavoie. Rick Lavoie is such a mwah. Again, he has so many great zugs. He said that a teacher called the mother up and said, your son is the laziest kid in the world. She said, what do you mean? He refuses to read. Every day a different excuse. He even broke his glasses so that he doesn't have to read. And one day he poked himself in the eye so he doesn't have to read. And the next day he threw up in class. I can't get him to do anything. He's the laziest kid in the world. So Rick Lavoie said, laziest? He's the most motivated kid in the whole world. He's rather not motivated to read. He's so motivated not to read that he will come up with the most ingenious, creative ways not to read. Everyone's motivated. So your 7th grade son is incredibly motivated. He's motivated to not that Chas Shalom ever did this if there was a big giant game or Met game, but he's motivated to put the thermometer under the water to make sure it's hot. He's motivated to make believe he's cold. He's motivated to wake up in the middle of the night and say he can't sleep. He is about as motivated as they get to avoid yeshiva. He's an incredibly motivated kid. He's not motivated for what you want him to be motivated for. And you might have a hard 7th grade with your son. You might have a tough 8th grade with your son. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's to ask a parent to be patient. I am not such a patient person, so I'm speaking to myself more than anyone. But if you have shalom bayis with your wife, and you approach it, and you think it through, and you discuss it, and then you apologize to your son afterwards that you were wrong. I was very not nice to my nephew over Shavuos. He told me an idea about camp. I thought it was a really stupid idea, so I told him that. And so I did something that I don't know if I would have done 15 years ago. It was a really crazy thing. I apologized to him. I made a really big mistake. And I did it in front of like 5 or 6 family members. It's a nephew that I'm close with. And the next time I sat in front of those 5 and 6 family members, I said, the Rambam says, if you do an Avera, you're supposed to try to do tshuva the same we did the Avera. So I embarrassed him in front of you 5 or 6. I just apologized. It wasn't so complicated. I just apologized. So just, I don't know if I'm saying anything. I don't know if I'm saying anything, but...
I say the 2 hardest things to do is to say I'm sorry and to say thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into more questions. We have more and more. We're going to catapult on this question over here. My child is into things that I don't really relate to or enjoy. For example, rock and roll type of music, baseball, fancy clothing. Our only connection is me telling him what to do, homework, go to shul, do this, do that. How can I connect with my child if I don't understand or like anything that they are into?
I call malarkey. That's a yeshivish word for saying I don't think it's true. In other words, find it. I got the Baruch Hashem, I'm particularly immature, so I like a lot of things. I like sports, I like music, I like fishing. So Rabbi Ari was my Rebbe. I had this chus of learning by him for a long time. I don't think Rabbi Ari is into anything other than Torah, right? And yet, he had the ability to show you that he cared about him in a way that was, even though all he did was Torah. I once asked a Basher when I was dating a question about Shidduchim. What should I look for? I'll tell you. I asked him, but for my first date ever, I said, "Was soll ich suchen?" And I guess I could ask Rabbi Ruben Epstein when he comes on next week. What should I do? First date, and he's told me the erste Mal is not a hechatzimta for the zweite Mal. Right? You have to go out at least twice. That was his, okay, fine. That was his dating advice. So 2 days later, I was in Center 1, and I was walking by, I think my aunt was in, so I walking out of Center 1, walking back to the mirror, and thank God I was wearing a hat and jacket, because I bumped into Rabbi Ari. I think Rabbi was giving shir. He gave shir to some Hesder yeshiva. It was like a Thursday. It wasn't Thursday. It was like a Wednesday night, 10:30 at night. I'm walking. It wasn't even in Geula. It was like near the Merkaz ear. I'm walking, and he just passes by me. It was the most like, what are you doing here? I'm like, maybe you're going to eat in Center 1. I didn't think so. And he just looked at me, and my collar, I'm not going to say that, it was like this. I was walking, sometimes I do, before I got married, even after, I wasn't, my collar was like this. And he just looks at me and he goes, no. And he fixed my collar. And it was him. Vasher then, it was a tiny little shir. He had 350 guys in the shir. It was, almost as many as there are tonight. And it was his way of connecting without the fact that I have nothing to do with your life, that you're an American. And Vasher once told me, my wife wasn't feeling well. I asked her what I should do to make it easier for her in Eretz Yisrael. And he told me, that in Geula, you can buy the ganz Shabbos. Ich hab nicht gewusst. Afilu the cholent. He was like so excited you could buy cholent. He couldn't believe it. He was never had Dar Geula before. But if you are a father and your son is important to you, again, I'm not talking about a son of Chas Shalom that's at risk, and that's a different sugya. You call my uncle, Mavi Fishoff, and in Chas Shalom, you should never have to call him. But I can't believe that a father I don't know. Reuben Feinstein said that Moshe, right? Moshe Feinstein. I don't think there's anyone bigger than Moshe. In right, we don't have to go bigger than that. And he said in the winter, Moshe would take his clothing and put it on the radiator after Reuben was sleeping. So when he woke up in the morning and he put on his clothing, it would be warm. Right. So I don't know what Reuben was into as a kid. I can't imagine that Moshe had anything, whatever. Moshe didn't have so much of shaykhs, but he connected. And I'm sure Reuben remembers that. Reuben said whenever we had guests, and we had very chashri guests, I always sat next to my father. I was always more important than everyone else. So you find things, and we're all, and those of us that are married, Baruch Hashem, right? So men and women are very, very different, right? Because Baruch Hu created their way. It's good like that. There are a lot of things that your wife is into that you're just not. And there's the faking that you like things, fine, good. And then there's understanding that if my wife is into that, then it's meaningful to me. So I think we all, those of us that Baruch Hashem have healthy marriages, recognize that even though I'm not into X, Y, and Z, I am because she is. That's it. So then just next door down. If your son's a ball player and you don't have, and you have two left feet, I have a parent in my yeshiva who grew up without sports, and I called him on his third grade son. So we had a football game, and for Lag B'Omer we played a big football game, and Asaf said to me, "What's football?" So the father said to me, "Yeah, I grew up without sports in my life. I don't know what football is. So, but what does this father do with his son? He plays Battleship with him Friday nights. And his son thinks his father is the coolest guy in the whole world. And I'll teach his son how to play football. I told him, you run that way, don't run that way, and you catch it, and don't let anyone catch you. That's it. So
figure it out.
Yeah, it's, if you love your son and he loves Lego, so you're going to play Lego with him, even if you're not into Lego. You just... I don't think that's... I don't understand. The shiloh to me is a shiloh of a father that has a tough... If you have a great relationship with your son, and your son is into Zach, and you'll get into it. You think I want to follow sports? My kids happen to enjoy baseball, so I have to, I have to get into the sports with them.
Very good. Here's a very interesting question. My son got an iPad, and I want him to tag it or keep it in my room at night. And he says, Tati, you don't trust me? What is the right approach? What's the father supposed to do then?
How old is the boy?
Let's say 14.
And how do you get the iPad? Okay, no, these again a lot of, right. Let's assume he got the iPad as a bar mitzvah present, and let's assume the parents let. Okay, I have an 11th grader, I have a 10th grader, I have a 7th grader. I think any parent that gets their son or daughter a smartphone, especially not filtered, is just, at best, to down the kavschus, you're a naive parent, at best. And here's the I'm going to say something that's a little, and it's not even the schmutz. It's not even the schmutz. Your son is the cleanest kid in the world, and and he's not even a sport. It's woof. As an adult, we all know we all have smartphones, and it's woof to us. But someone is not miyused as a person yet. It's tremendous hezek.
It has an effect. It has an effect on the brain.
It has a tremendous hezek, and socially, it's wild. I'll leave that story out. But one of my proudest chaps in Chinuch was with an iPad. I had a Talmud I learned with Bechavrusa, Yankee, we call him, because that's his name. We always call everyone Yankee. Yankee's mother calls me and she says, I gave in. I got an iPad for the bar mitzvah, like from Aunt, Aunt Razy, and lives at in Passaic, doesn't understand what the dangers of technology. And we finally gave in after 8 months, but I'm gonna ask that we tag it, and he screaming, you don't trust me. Screaming. So I learned that. I come to his house every once a week to learn. So I said, Mrs. Goldstein, let me get a run at it. So I walk into and I was close with this boy. He was in 7th or 8th grade. I don't remember what it was, 7th or 8th grade. So I'm a little bit crazy. And I walked into their house and I did the following. I sat down, we were learning Megillah, Sechtas Megillah, me and him. And I sat down, I'm like, oh man, I forgot my Gemara at home. I want my Gemara, has my notes and I need my Gemara. And then I'm like, I am so tired. I'm lazy. I took out my car keys and I flipped it to him. And I said, Yankee, can you do me a favor? Could you drive to my house and get my Gemara? It's on my door is open. Could you drive to my house on the kitchen table, get my Gemara? I'm just too lazy. And he looks at me, his eyes like pop open, like he just won the lottery. And he says, can I what? I say, yeah, can you drive to my house? He said, Rebbe, I'm 13. I trust you. Could you drive to my house and get my Gemara? So my heart was like booming because he's like, okay. And he got out. I'm like, oh my gosh. He got out of his chair. He leaves his house. He walks to the front of his house. My car is parked in the front. And he gets into my car. Of course, he had to move the seat all the way back because I'm very short and he was very tall. And like you see him like Mama Stellen, he was battling. Was it like what should I do? And he turned the engine on. And that's when I'm like, no, I'm not getting up. I have faith. I'm a maimon. He turned the engine on. And then he turned the engine off. And he comes back inside. And I played it very cool. And he comes back inside. I'm like, hey, Yankee, where's my Gemara? And he's like, Rebbe, I don't have it. So I said, why not? Like, Rebbe, I can't drive. He's like, what are you doing? So why? I trust you. He said, Rebbe, I'm 13. I can't drive. It's not about trust. I'm 13. I can't drive. So I said to him, Yankee, do you know what would happen if you would have driven and you would have crashed into a tree and the cops showed up? I would have been arrested, not you. Let a 13-year-old drive a car? What are you, crazy? It has nothing to do with trust. I trust you because you're 13. You can't vote. You can't smoke. You can't drive a car. And you can't have an unfiltered iPad. It has nothing to do with trust. He put on the filter. Had a fun history in life. Baruch Hashem today he's doing Gavaldig, but it's don't allow. It's like when you have these politicians and they have these debates. So that you have a real good debater will learn how to rephrase the issue. And the kid comes to you and says, "Mommy, you don't trust me." It's not the sugi. It's no shayches. Of course I trust you. I trust you. I trust you with everything that you're able to be trusted with. And a 13-year-old boy or girl can't smoke, right? Can't buy a cigarette. Can't buy a bottle of wine. Can't buy a gun. And I was in charge. I took a technology course. I was in charge of teaching technology to the middle school kids in YBH, and they used to, that's dangerous. My zog to them was, is a pen dangerous? And they all, of course not. I said, really? A pen could do a million things. But right when I said, what if your sister was 6 months old and it was a bulb and it was like a fountain pen? It would have been the most dangerous thing in the world. She could poke her eye out. She could eat the ink. She could write on the wall freshly painted stuff, right? She could do a million. You could kill someone with a pen. Yeah, but it depends how old. Oh, great. It depends how old you are. A car. So that kid has to be told by the parents. It's not about trust. Of course, I trust you. You're 13. A 13-year-old boy has to be, an iPad without a filter is reckless. It's reckless. It's driving without a seatbelt, drunk. And you should have your own phone filtered, because if you're a parent, right? But Avad Evan has a phone that's filtered, so.
Somebody just texted us in. My son is very hurt from his Rebbe this year, who embarrassed him in front of the entire class. He talks about it often to me. I reached out to his Rebbe to share with him, and I received no response. How can I help my son end the school year? Hold on, I lost it. How can I help my son end the school year and move on without having such painful thoughts from the actions of the Rebbe?
So I don't like these questions because you need more information. In other words, what does that mean, no response? What does that mean, no response? Rebbe, I don't know what that means, no response. I hold that screaming in a class is treif at a kid, because screaming is kas, right? Screaming is kas. In 11 years, I screamed at a child once in class. It was my first year teaching. After I already saved the world with the Gemara shmooze, a kid fell and got stitches, and another kid jumped, went on top of him, was trying to help him, and like hurt him again. Like the kid acted like Meshuggah on top of the kid who was ready with stitches. So I screamed at him. I said, "David, get away!" Screamed, "What's the matter with you?" I screamed at him, and the kid like, "Oh my gosh!" turned red and he walked away.
Yankel, his name was Yankel.
His name was Yankel. Yankel David, right? And I went home and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I screamed at him. I came back the next day, and I quoted the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, Parak Bay, somewhere along that area, that a person does an avera. You do tshuva, ba'isa makayim, right? And you do it where you did the avera. And I said, I was ma'ishu berabim, and I'm apologizing to berabim. And his father called me that night to say, my son came home yesterday, David said, "Sorry not to call you," and my son came home today and told me how good his Rebbe made him feel at and what you did. Now again, I screamed at him, and I never screamed at a kid since then. I have a Messiah from a Baron Bash, who was my Manal and YSV. I think it's an unbelievable thing and I'm speaking on the microphone a lot, especially in camp. And in a base medrash, I will never say, I never say last names in a microphone. When you want a kid to sit down, or because then you're embarrassing him. So it's always Yankel, and hopefully there's 3 or 4 Yankels, and then you move the microphone and say, "Goldstein, sit down." So the Busha Barabim is a big deal. I had a Rebbe, I don't think it's a Busha, I had a Rebbe in my yeshiva that came to me and said that he just munned a kid this last week. He did something like, showed him, like, made him a chag against a kid in front of the whole class, and he feels terrible. So I told him what I did 11 years ago, and he went back to class, and he apologized to the kid Barabim, and this Rebbe is an amazing Rebbe, he's an amazing kid, Alamilas, and the kid wasn't hurt, but it makes a reshim. So I don't know what that means. When you tell me a Rebbe hurt, mother calls a Rebbe and says, "You hurt my child, you embarrassed him," and no response. I don't know what that means.
He didn't respond to the text, so she should reach out again.
Yeah, so there's something called a phone call, an email, and if, be careful, because I was a former Rebbe. Now that I'm a Manal, you called him a Manal. I mean, again, I'm assuming the mice is the way it's being told. The Rebbe embarrassed the kid, and the Rebbe is refusing to discuss the story. It sounds muzar. The answer is that story has to get fixed, because if I interviewed a kid this year trying to switch into my yeshiva, and tough kid, and he was being very tough on the faher. I don't want being very tough with me on the faher. Like, and his mother was dying. Like, "We practiced. You're not gonna do that." So I asked his mother to leave the room, and I said to the mother, I said to the kid, "You had tough rebbeim ever?" And he said he had a couple of rebbeim that he were ba'avotim. Let's assume he was right. Again, according to this kid. So I said, "So you have a big problem, because I understand why you don't trust adults, and it's hard for you to trust me. You don't even know me. And here I am. I'm supposed to, like, all of a sudden faher you and decide who you are. Come to my yeshiva when you had 2 rebbeim." And his mother told me 2 rebbeim that were, and yet a broken marriage. Like a boy that had real problems trusting adults. So I said to him, "I understand that you have a hard time trusting adults, and I have to earn your trust. And I'm telling you that all I want to do is help you be matzliach. The only one that can make the next move is you. You would be within your rights." I said, "What a Yankee, if you would shut down now and walk out and say, I don't care, and never go to school, you go to Shemayim, Kadosh Baruch Hu will say, wow, I hear. Or you could learn slowly how to trust again, because you were hurt, and it's a sugya. And then, by the way, just to show that I'm not just a schmoozer, I told him, "What do you like to do?" He likes to play piano, so I'm a little bit musical, and I munned his mother, he better start getting lessons again. And he started playing piano again, and he called me, and then he started learning Gemara again. And so when you say that Rebbe that hurt him, again, I'm assuming the story is true. Someone chatted, and they're 100% right. The parents should not have texted a Rebbe, "You hurt my son." They should have called the Rebbe. I'm assuming this horrible story is true. That's they're gonna have to build this kid up again. And the next year's Rebbe is gonna have a much harder time gaining his trust. That's horrible. She has to call the Rebbe, call the Manal, and again, I'm not for calling Manalim. Manal, why would you want to bother the Manal? But I would, to me, it sounds almost like this is a broken telephone, assuming that the Rebbe is not is someone that belongs in the classroom.
Right. I got a few of these type of questions. One person wrote in the questions, for whatever reason they can't mess with the Rebbe. They can't mess with him.
Can't mess with the Rebbe.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What do those words mean?
He screamed at him publicly in front of his friends, for instance, and being upfront with the yeshiva is not an option. Will likely make things worse.
You can register Yeshiva Katan in Manhattan. I'll send you the email to the secretary, the office secretary. They should switch yeshivas.
I agree. Okay, let's jump into this.
You're in a yeshiva that the Rebbe is Mevayshas on Berabim, and again, I'm assuming the story is true. Not that there's 7 sides. If this
actually, I want to read the rest of the question. Okay.
Oh, this is fun.
Let's read the whole thing. This is actually going to be better.
Say the name of the yeshiva while you're at it. No.
Yeshiva ABC. What's the best way to support and validate your child of high school age who is being singled out by someone in the administrative position? He is screamed at publicly in front of his friends, for instance, and being upfront with yeshiva is not an option. It will likely make things worse. He is broken and traumatized. We have sought professional help to help him cope. Things have not improved. He's just getting through, but I know this is causing real damage. What should I do?
I don't mean to laugh because it's a cry. First, he's in Mesivta. It's a little different. Because Menalim and Mesivta are much nastier than Menalim in elementary schools. But in Mesivta, a Rebbe could have a much more of an impact and like save the day more than in elementary school. And if
it goes the other way also.
It sure does. Yeah. A Rebbe is much more impactful in a Mesivta than his elementary school because the boy is ready to make big moves. Again, the story is as Menal is being Bevayish and Berabim and the kid's in therapy because of it. Why are they still in that yeshiva? Because they can't, because it's hard to find another yeshiva. I mean, the answer is, and this is like the question you're asking me. My son is being beaten up by his manal. He's being cut with a knife, often. And whatever I do, there's no one home. What should I do to help my son cope with being cut with the knives? The answer is kolatzala. I mean, I don't know.
Buy him a gun.
What?
Buy him a gun.
Yeah, buy him a gun. Yeah. That's horrible. I'm not belittling the story. It's horrible. And
okay, Rabbi, let's jump into this. Different angle here. My son is in 10th grade, and he's been joking around about using e-cigarettes for a while. I found him with an e-cigarette last week. When I tried confiscating from him, he tells me he'll just go get another one. There's a boy that sells it, and everyone is doing it. What's the big deal anyway? What scares me even more, he's been joking around about getting a smartphone for quite a bit, and he told me he simply can go to Walmart and get it. What can I expect? Can I expect that having a smartphone without us knowing it is in the near future? What is our role as parents in dealing with these kinds of issues?
He 100%. That's a good fine. Oh, good. The other ones were scaring me. Like scary. I don't know. You have Menalim that are beating up horrible. Like, I don't know. I'm defending making macha for all the Menalim, all the wonderful Menalim, and future Menalim, like the person who used to be a Rebbe in Dallas, Texas. But anyways, he can buy an iPhone and an iPad in Walmart and wherever, and e-cigs. He can definitely buy it. I once heard such a powerful line. It's a powerful. I remember it. It was 20 years ago from Rabbi Greenwald, Zachariah Greenwald. He said, "Let's say you get into a fight with your kids. What's the worst thing a parent could do to a kid? From parent to a from kid. The worst thing you could do is throw him out of the house. Right? That's l'chayra. If you ask, the worst thing you could do, son, cut him off. Throw him out of the house. Fine. That's your. What's the worst thing a 15-year-old 10th grade son could do to his father? Very simple. Not put on tefillin. That's the worst thing he could do, right? Not put on tefillin. So who's carrying a water pistol and who's carrying a nuke? Right? If you ever make that fight, if it's a fight, a vikuach, a battle between you and your Mesivta age boy, your 10th grader, no shot. So it can't be a battle. And you're right. Yeah, he could get e-cigs from anywhere. E-cigs, cigarettes, today is much worse. Drink, all of that. All of that is readily available. Is one thing and one thing only, to have an open and deep and honest relationship with your son. That's it. Will he be honest? Will he trust? Does he think you're being facetious? Does he think that it's having a relationship to talk to him? And it just, I once had a Talmud, a 10th grader, not my own 10th grade Talmud, from a different yeshiva. Father called me. His son wanted a computer. His father said, I'm not getting a computer. So I went to give it to the father. The kid stole his father's wallet. And he said, I'm not giving you the computer. I'm not giving you a wallet back until you buy me a computer. Right? Crazy mice. Father calls, what should I do? So I said, my Natia is call the cops. This is 15 years ago, 10 years ago. My Natia is call the cops. The kid is a ganef. Call the cops. Let me call my uncle. Yeah, right. I know my uncle is a Shem Dover, Avi Fishoff. I don't know. He deals with in extreme cases. He's someone people have a lot of strong opinions about him, and I think he's I'm a very very chashuv life-saving person. My uncle told me the craziest thing in the world. He said to me, tell the father to go to Best Buy and buy the most expensive computer in the store and give it to his son. So I said to my high, and he said, awesome. He said, this is not a kid that wants a computer. I also want things, and your son also wants things, and he asks you, and you say no. This is a chayla nefesh. Someone who steals his father's wallet and says, I'm not giving you the wallet back until you buy the computer, is not a kid that wants a computer. He's a kid who's a meshugana. So you have to get him help. You take it to a therapist and get him help. But the father has to show this kid that I love you and I'm there for you, and you want a computer, here's a computer. Let's go to a therapist to figure out why you're stealing my wallet. It's if your son wants an e-cig, right? And you tell him no, and that's not tell him. He understands from the chinuch in your house that cigarettes, that alcohol for a 10th grader, that marijuana, all of these things are pasnish for him. Then he won't. And if he's going to buy it without you knowing, that means that there's a breakdown in the kesher, and you're going to tell him no. Wow, that's good. Good luck telling a teenager no. It's about the open relationship, the trusting relationship to have, and it's hard with teenagers. Teenagers don't like to be open. Parents, I have a 10th grader and an 11th grader. They're both superstars, but they have mastered the 3-word answer. Oh, right, yeah.
How do I motivate my son who seems to be satisfied with just passing grades? He says, what's the point? What's the difference if I get a 90 or 70, I pass, and I'm fine. Why should I work harder?
He's motivated. What happens when he's in camp and and it's a football game, he's a quarterback? Is he okay being in second place? He's an unmotivated kid. He doesn't care about by playing guitar that he comes home and plays every single night for 2 hours.
But in learning, he's not motivated.
So I'm saying, right? I'm Rick Lavoying you. Avadi's a motivated kid. He's not an atzlus. He is incredibly motivated. He just doesn't find maybe the sipuk hanefesh. It's not worth it for him. I had a counselor this summer. He's not on because I'm not going to say his name. His name is Yankee, of course. Last night at camp, he comes to me at 2 a.m, as all of these stories happen, and he says to me, Rabbi Schonfeld, could I speak to you? I said, sure. No one's sleeping at 2 o'clock the last night. And this guy is a chashav. He's a classic good ben Torah in a beis medrash, in a wonderful beis medrash, clean as a whistle, alamilas, wonderful good kid. And he says to me, I know we didn't talk about camp tonight, but he says to me, I want to tell you what camp did to me. He's a counselor. He said, I'm a good boy during the year. I'm a Beinani. So he says to me, I get 80s, not 90s. I learn. I'm a good boy. I don't miss shachris, but I'm a nobody. I'm just a regular guy. I come to camp, and I don't want to give it who it was because there were certain things in camp that stood out. And I have Aleph and Beis and Gimel and Dal that I did for you this summer that gave me sipuk, that made me matter, that the kids liked me. The kids talked about it. They look up to me. And he started crying to me. This kid's a regular yeshiva bacher. If his friends knew he was crying, the guy would die. He's like, these 4 weeks will last me the entire year. The sipuk hanefesh and the self-esteem that I feel will last me the entire year. And I don't miss Durham. So that boy that's not motivated and he gets 90s and not 70s, it's because he's not matzliach. Whatever he's matzliach in, recess time comes and he's incredibly matzliach. And guitar and art, it's the Rick Lavoie zug is there's no such thing as an unmotivated kid. You think of that, and we all know that anyone Rebbe knows those kids, that whatever you do, they won't do work. They are the most creative kids in the world. Your son has no creativity. He'll never write an essay. Really, my son is the most creative kid in the world. Nicht zu schreiben, right? Not to write the essay. So that kid that is he's afraid of failure probably. He's got clapped 100 times by trying and getting a 70. So why should he try? It's not that he's not motivated to get a 90. It's that it's not worth it. I'm speaking generically, but who doesn't want to be matzliach? Show me the person in the world that is okay being a Beinoni, and that person is afraid because he probably got clapped too many times, and therefore he's afraid to fail. Everyone wants to be a Mitzuyan. It's just, why should I try? I could try to be a Mitzuyan in Stratomatic, which probably one person on this, I don't know if anyone, Ush, you know what Stratomatic is? Stratomatic is the greatest card game of all time. It's a baseball dice game, but it's everyone, right? So
Kugel, that's all I know.
You got the foursies? You ever got the foursies?
Where's it? Cuff, patch, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump on this question. I have a few sons. Some of them are amazing, masmidim, like really smart, great kids. I have my youngest son, who's not so smart. It seems like he's suffering since everybody compares him to his brothers when he's not capable of being on their level. How can I make him feel this special for just being him?
So I'm one of three boys. I have to be very careful who am I, right? And I have three boys. It's all the same. It's like Ein La'el, really, is the answer, but it gets so much harder said than done. I remember that the mice that I told before was such a scary story. When the father said to me, when I said, your son doesn't feel like you value him, and he said, the mice's younger brother's a Mitzuyan. Father said those words, like he wasn't even embarrassed to say that to me. Like, oh my gosh. There's no such thing as your son is not a Mitzuyan. He's a Mitzuyan in certain things. I've had, as again, I'm a first year Manal, so as I can only speak in very limited experience, but I've been a head counselor in camp for long enough for 11 years. So you see brothers sometimes, you see families, 1, 2, 3, 4 siblings, and you'll meet with the head staff and you'll say, I know everyone thinks that's the Mitzuyan. They're wrong. That's the Mitzuyan. He's nice ba'ol. He's confident. He has a certain people skills that other brothers don't have. Yeah, the other one in yeshiva is right. So it's who we think the Mitzuyan is so often not in 20 years from now. What if I posed the shaila and to just answer the question by saying, do you love any of your children any less than any other ones because the other one is a bigger masmid? If the answer is again, I'm speaking so easy, and it's so hard because certain things that we value as in our system. So when your son gives you nachas and makes you proud, right? Because he's a valedictorian, because he has a good 3-point shot, so those things is all these things I'm saying are so idealistic. And I feel like it's so much easier said than done, and I'm speaking to myself 10 times over because I have 3 boys and they're each different and each incredible in their own way. And I would take all 3 of them to an island if I had to. No. But we get stuck as parents in the minutia and in just getting frustrated with a struggling kid. We get stuck in the fact that one kid doesn't want to come to shul until he's in 6th grade, but Shemi's kid comes to shul in 6th grade. We get stuck in vicariously needing that kid to live up to our own expectations. So we once in a while, usually it's their wife. You need a wife. That's what I use daily to remind you of the milas and of the chashivas of each. And we all talk about it's like such fluff. It's like my father always try. Everyone talks about achdos, right? Every time there's chas until as long as you do it my way, then it's 100% achdos, right? It's what we all talk about, valuing the individual and the chashivas of the yachid, and everyone has what to give a Kadosh Baruch Hu and a Kadosh Baruch, and everyone's a Ben Yachid, a Kadosh Baruch, and everyone has their own tafkid and their own tachlis, and all the stories in the Mishalim with the orchestra, with one tenua was off in the orchestra and it wasn't the same, right? All the Mishalim and all the stories. Until it's our own son who got a 68 on his Chumash test, or you know can't dribble a basketball, and the other two could, or I don't know, you're an artist and you have two sons are artists and the third one can't draw. All of a sudden, and then so it's all easier said than done. But the more we hear it, and the more we know what the ideal is, we could sabislach, slowly try to make tikkunim and to quote, I think I've
said it all.
I think you kind of know what I'm going to answer every question. Kind of. I don't think I'm saying it's chidushim. I'm. It's just we just have to keep hearing it, and I speak to myself more than anyone.
All right, let's go to closing. Moedik, beautiful. I think we covered a lot. And here we go. You ready? First of all, Geshmack for coming on, Rabbi Ari. We appreciate it. And tonight was beautiful. It was really open, clear. I think the bottom line is, like Rabbi Trank says, gotta love him. That's the bottom line. The whole share in a nutshell. But thank you again for coming on. It was Moedik again tonight. If anybody wants to join the WhatsApp, please WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066. And every Sunday I will send you the flyer. If you want to go to menachembernfeld.com, you can sign up to the emails, and every week get the email again. For anybody who's here the first time, every Sunday night at 9:30. This Zoom ID, we have different shir, different topics. Please spread the word. Next week, we're going to have June 19th, an amazing event with Rabbi Reuven Epstein, who's known as the Dating and Marriage Pro. The topic is an open discussion about dating and marriage. It should be amazing, powerful. I know he's big in this field, and we'll find out next week. So please come and join us. It's relevant to everybody. So please come. And I wanted to just say, shkoyach to again tonight. Everything is recorded. It'll be menachem@menachembernfeld.com. If anybody has any questions, please email coachmenachem@gmail.com. Tonight's share 105. And if you want to listen to tomorrow, we'll be on our phone lines at 848-777-GROW. That's 848-777-GROW. Thank you to Lakewood Scoop, Rabbi Yaniv Chazak, Eli and Ariel from 5 Central, and Chayel Kaufman Shmulson from JCN. And let's go to wrapping it up. Menachem will go first. The Rabbi Ari, I want you to leave us with a chizuk. Coach Menachem.
Rabbi Ari Schonfeld, and I think you said it all. And it's like a real boot camp. It's work, and we could talk about it, and we should talk about it. And when it happens, we have to sit down, go into a different room and try to see what triggers and the way you look at it, and that the woman that said she's ready to have kids and she wants to know what to do, is beautiful. You'll learn, you'll read books, and then when it happens in Mitzvah Hashem, that's when you'll see it, and you'll get to work, and that's when we learn it. We learn relationships with our spouse, and it's good to come here tonight, hear what's all the struggles, and it's amazing. And then when you're actually in the boot camp, that's when the work comes up. I just want to mention that when a parent or a Rebbe has a certain feeling towards a kid, it's they can try to say whatever they want, but the kids pick up. For some reason, they smell it. They can feel, they can see what's the real feeling inside. So I just want to put down a practical something. It's work, but try it out before you do anything. Sit in a room, quiet. Look at that child. You're having a hard time to find milas, to find something good, and work on it. Sit on it, and then try to visualize. Talk to him. Positive. In the beginning, it's going to be hard, because you're playing, you're not really feeling it. And do it over and again till slowly you feel a little bit of a change, till you pick up, make a list of things that, yes, he does do, even though the other things irk you and they press your buttons. And that slowly you can create that relationship that the child should feel. So when you actually go out and you say, what are you interested in playing? Let's have a good time. They should actually feel that you mean it and not just playing the game. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. And in Mitzvah Hashem, with a lot of siyata d'shmaya, with coming here and hearing about it. Hashem should help us all, wherever we are, whatever age it is, whether it's a Rebbe or a parent. And if we want, and with a tefillah, Hashem should help us all in Mitzvah Hashem.
Rabbi Ari, Rabbi Nightshade America. Let's go.
So I want to end off with I think one of the most powerful varts that I've heard, and I heard it in the name of Rabbi Svei, that it's a Rashi that many of us are familiar with, that when Yosef HaTzadik was faced with the Nisayan of Eishes Betifar, so he was about to be Nichshol, and Rashi quotes the Chazal, it's a Gemara in Saita, Rasa demust yukne shel aviv, Rasa bechaloin demust yukne shel aviv. I think it's Rasa demust yukne shel bechaloin. In the window, he saw the image of Yaakov Avinu, and that caused him to be nishmar from chet. So Rabbi Svei asked, why a chaloin? Meaning, Yosef HaTzadik was about to do an avei with Eishes Betifar, and the simple understanding is that he saw Yaakov Avinu in a window, right? So he didn't really see Yaakov Avinu, it's in a window. Meaning he thought of the image. What's up as a chaloin, a window? He saw Yaakov in a window. What shaykhs? He thought of Yaakov Avinu. That's Aleph. And really, like, why mention the chaloin? Rasa, he saw in the Shemayim. Why a chaloin? He saw the most. So Rabbi said an unbelievable touch. He said chaloin in Chazal, Lashon Chazal, also means a mirror. Mishnayis, chaloin is a mirror. And he said it's not the pshat that he saw Yaakov Avinu. And he laid the Gemara like this: Ra'a demus deyuknoi. Yosef looked in the mirror and he saw his own image. He saw himself. Saw Yosef HaTzadik. But he saw his image shel aviv. He saw himself the way his father saw him. Yosef was in the bar. He was before the bar, but he was in Mitzrayim. He looked at himself. I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing, right? Self-esteem, doubt. So therefore, I could do the Aveira. And he looked and he saw a mirror and he saw the way Yaakov Avinu views him. He saw his own image, but the way his father sees him. He saw the chashivos that his father had for him. He saw the love and the way in which his father viewed him. You're Yosef. And he got that self-esteem back. Is because he saw himself through his father's eyes. And that's the power that we have as mechanchim, as rebbeim, as mothers, as fathers, to affect our children's lives, is to give them the self-worth, is to make them feel chashiv, to make them feel like $1 million. Because the scary part is, almost like the sad part is, we all feel that our children are worth $1 million, billions of dollars. Every one of our child is worth every penny we have. We all use every penny we have to pay for tuition and bechanach our children. So we don't just say it, we mean it. Every penny we have, our children are worth that. We as flawed human beings struggle to emote that and to give that over to our children and to our students. And that's our achrayus. And obviously the more we have in zich, the more we can work on our healthier we are, the more comfortable we'll be in sharing with others. And so just to end with a baracha, that the fact that hundreds of people come to just to literally, that as that woman said, to try to, women even without children, but to try to become better, b'nai Torah, avdei Hashem, to try to improve ourselves. It's an unbelievable schus for me to have been part of such a chash of a platform. My brachas hedya to all of us is that we should be matzliach in having our children, our talmidim, see the real love that we have for them.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Ari. Beautiful.
Kol tov.
Everybody next week, same time, same place. Beruva and Epstein. Take care. Good night.